Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and it's a CIVIVI day. I just recorded an unboxing. That video, I'll edit it later on, but it was full of CIVIVIs as well. And today we've got this guy, the Mastodon. Now, CIVIVI, as they are prone to do, likes to recycle or reuse, or I don't know, they just like the 3 R's, I guess. Just like some of their knives have the same handle with different blades. The Mastodon has a sibling called the Bullmastiff with a fuller instead of a hole. Very similar shaped and sized knife as this one. They have a mini version of both the Bullmastiff and this Mastodon as well. You can get them with this steel. This is... oh, what steel is it again? You can get this with their 9CR18 MOV, which is a good budget stainless steel from China, which I really like. Rockwell on that is usually around 59, plus or minus maybe, but right around 59. It can go up to 60. And it's a good steel that I quite like. You can also get it with a pattern welded steel, what a lot of people call Damascus. One thing though, CIVIVI doesn't seem to tell us what steels they use in their Damascus. If you know for a fact what steel they use, please send me an email with the link. You can also leave a link in the comments below. It won't automatically oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it won't automatically show up, but I'll get, I can check my list of comments that are held for review. And I haven't done that for months now. For a number of months. I'm going to have to check that list of all the comments that have been held for review. You can also contact me, email me at CanadianCuttingEdge@gmail.com. And I'd like to know exactly what steel they use in their Damascus. We've got a flipper to deploy this, cleaver, and G10 handle scales. It also comes in G10 with carbon fiber laminate. If you like that kind of thing, I tend not to like that because they tend to feel slippery to me. I like this texture that we find on most G10. I've got extra large hands and there's still more room back here. So this knife can be held in a number of different grips and a number of different hand sizes, including big extra large hands. But it still feels okay to people with, like, my wife's medium women's hands. It feels like a good grip and solid grip to her as well. So it's time to get over to the tabletop. We'll let YouTube do their advertising so that I get a little bit of an income from that, which I appreciate it. If you let the advertisements play, it really does help me out. And then we'll get to the tabletop and take a good close look at this thing. Keep watching. So here it is. Let's start with our size comparison with our Ontario Rat 1. If we line up the pivot pins right there, it's actually not that big of a knife. Some people look at this thing and think it's absolutely huge, but here's the evidence. It's not a huge knife. It's, got a deep blade. The handle's a little bit bigger than a lot, but if you look at this section where this swell is, it's very close to the same kind of thing. So it's not a super extra large knife, but there's a lot of room in the handle. That's where it really is a nice thing. We've got a stonewash treatment on this one. And knives even that are stonewashed, I can get them to leave fingerprints as well. My fingerprints anyways. But it's nice treatment. The edges are just slightly rounded off, like chamfered here on the spine. That's just sort of rounded off everywhere else except for the cutting edge. They did a decent job sharpening this knife. One of the best sharpening jobs I've seen in a long time in terms of consistency, not only along the blade, but matching one side to the other. This one's done very well. We've got, a swept back plunge here, but a fairly long plunge when it gets close to the cutting edge. And we've got a finger choil here that is big enough for me to use. I really like that. The only thing I wish they would change on this thing is if they would have brought everything back just a little bit. So this plunge could come back about 1/8 of an inch, and then this cutout here could come, and then when it's open, it would sit next to the G10. I really like that, when my finger can sit flat against this wider section instead of just against the blade. It just feels better, in my opinion. And I think it looks really, really good. Even the hole here, it's been slightly chamfered, and it's nice and soft. There's no way you're going to catch on that thing and hurt yourself with that hole. So it's very well done. Slightly upswept here by your hand. So when your hand's grabbing it, the thumb is coming up just a little bit, but not a lot. If I'm staying back here and I reach over, nice solid grip, nice thick. It's over 1/8 of an inch thick back here. And when I sneak up, it's still comfortable this way. It just works. At one point I thought I might like some jimping up here, but then when I really started using it, and I do extensive testing with these knives, no, it doesn't need jimping, and it doesn't have it, and so that's just fine. Now for what's the writing on the knife, you can't see anything except for in tiny, tiny letters right there. It says 9CR18 MOV. Nothing else on the blade. On the handle, you just have that C for CIVIVI and nothing else. Like I've said many times, I really, really like CIVIVI for this reason. They don't over-brand their stuff, and they keep their badging nice and small. I really like that an awful lot. Way more brands need to take note and do the same thing. And I got to go see what Bandit got into. Okay, so now I've got him sitting beside me, so hopefully he'll be quiet. The handle. We've got that flat slab G10. It's got a shallow chamfer all the way around, and then it's sort of softened and rounded right at the very edge, so there's no sharpness on the G10 at all. Nice and flat. We've got the very good screws that I like, these T8 screws that are flush, not those button screws. 2 holes so that we can put the pocket clip on the left side if we want to. A nice lanyard hole. It's lightly chamfered around there as well. On the back, we've got a 1/3 back spacer. The front edge of it is rounded and it just sits in there really, really nicely. And then we've got the pocket clip on this side. It's the classic deep pocket clip from CIVIVI that I really like. Flush screws down there. Those are T6s, the only T6s that we have. I don't mind that being T6 because you're not going to move your pocket clip very often. You're going to probably move it once, but you might take apart your knife many times. So you can always take apart your knife without touching the pocket clip screws at all. T8 screw over here. On this knife, I think I would have liked this just to be stonewashed instead of blackwashed. That black dot kind of looks odd to me. I'd like it the same color as, the blade and the pocket clip. That'd be a little bit nicer. I think the pocket clip has sort of a bead blast finish and not a stonewash finish. All the edges are nicely rounded just a little bit, and the top comes flat, and it's just, the edges are nicely rounded. It's a very functional pocket clip. They didn't make it come out too terribly far, this way, which I really like. Let's take a look at how it goes into a pocket. Now it looks sitting there. So it holds it right there until you slide it all the way in. But it comes right down to the bottom and it sits straight. It doesn't bottom out at the bottom of the pocket. It's not that terribly long. I'll give you all the measurements later on. And to see the top of that, when you're looking down into the pocket, you can just sort of see a little bit that there's something in there. The pocket clip with those holes in there makes it look like it's just something light and small in your pocket. And then you pull this thing out and bam! So, yeah, that's good. Lock up. There's no blade play side to side. It's all solid, no blade play up and down. Lock up here is just like I like a brand new knife to be. It's engaged and it's fully engaged, but there's lots of room for it to wear over. So I love that. That's perfect. They've got a little bit of jimping on the top of the lock arm. And if you look across this way, it sticks out just enough that it's always easy to get that lock release You don't ever have to hunt for it, or, you know, like the knife I reviewed just a little while ago, you know, stick your finger in there the sideways and try to unlock it and stuff. Nope, the lockup is done very, very well. Detent is good. It holds it. But because this knife blade is so terribly heavy, you can do a hard wrist flick and make the blade come out. I could make the detent a little bit stronger, but, you know, according to some interpretations, and it doesn't happen every time, it did again that time, if this comes open, at least CBSA interprets that as being a centrifugal knife. And I don't think so at all, but you just never know what a judge would decide that this is. But I think it's legit, so I'll take my chances. The flipper has got jimping on the top and on the front, so it just curls around that edge. So you can use light switch method, just pulling straight back, that works. And you just push down on an angle, that works as well. You can see the blade doesn't come flying out with a really hard thwack or anything, but you can get it to open up, you know, nice and quick, no problem like that at all. It's time now to talk about all the sizes, dimensions, and all that stuff. Let's go over those sizes. Like I said, 164 grams, 5.8 ounces. That's actually not that bad for a knife this size. Factory sharpness, 80 best. That's quite a bit better than average. The cutting edge length, 92.7 millimeters, 3.65 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the G10, 99.2 millimeters, 3.9 inches. The thickness of the blade, up here at the ricasso, 3.96 millimeters, which is 0.156 of an inch. So yeah, well over an eighth of an inch. I like that. Blade depth, the widest point is right there, and that is 40.4 millimeters, 1.59 inches. How thin is it behind the grind? 0.39 millimeters, 15 thousandths of an inch, and I measured that at a couple places along the length of the blade. Well, 3 places along the length of the blade. The grind angles, actually quite well done. This side is about 21.3 and 20.5 degrees. That's an average of 20.9 on this side. This side is 21.3, 21.9, which is about 21.6 combined, which 20.9 and 21.6, that's 0.7 degrees difference from one side to the other, and quite consistent along the length, less than a degree difference along the whole length of the knife. The handle length, 40.4 millimeters, 1.59 inches. The grip area, it's about 11 centimeters, about 4¼ inches. If you add the front forward choil, it's about 13 centimeters, 5⅛ inches, slightly rounded. And the thickness of the handle is 13 millimeters, 0.512 of an inch. Now for the handle depth or width within your grip, the widest point is right about here, 29.1 millimeters, 1.15 inches. The depth that you need, or the width you need in your pocket right here, is 51.2 millimeters, 2.02 inches. Total length of the knife when the blade is deployed, 229.3 millimeters, 9.03 inches. Yeah, it's a big knife. That is the sizes for this thing. I quite like it. You probably want to see what it looks like taken apart, don't you? Well, let's get started. Feels like there's a little bit of Loctite in there, which is common for CIVIVI. Yep, there it is. You can see that white dust in that screw. And oh, I thought this thing was going to have ball bearings in it. It's got phosphor bronze washers. I don't watch other people's videos or anything, so there you go. That's a nice, yeah, that's a good phosphor bronze washer. Very good size, great thickness. It's got a nice thin lubricant in there, and it gave good action. You know, if it doesn't need ball bearings, why spend the money on ball bearings? I like that. That's old school. And there you can see the back spacer. with the lanyard hole in it, so you could take that backspacer out if you preferred, because I think these things have a shoulder on them. Yeah, those pins have a shoulder on them, so you could use it with or without the backspacer, and that's totally your option. Good skeletonizing, everywhere, so very well done. I'm just going to put it back together again, because that thin lubrication... Oh, I was going to take a look at something, wasn't I? Here we go. They've got a little notch right there, and there's a little bit of G10 sticking out right there. That helps keep it from spinning freely. Now, I have had problems with some knives that have this. I wish CIVIVI would update this and put 2 notches in, and that would make it a lot stronger and less susceptible to give way and spin. But you do have to line it up just right. There you go. If you have it wrong, then it sticks proud a little bit and doesn't sit flush, so you got to turn that C so it's straight that way, and then it's ready to be used. These washers are cut with a stamp, so it's stamped out, which means one side is a little bit rough, but these have been sort of sanded off so they don't have sharp edges, but one side's clearly softer and smoother than the other side. So you put that rounded soft side next to the blade to help with keeping really good action. What I do sometimes with these, I put them on my strop, especially if they're just a little bit too sharp, and I strop the sharp side. Not on CIVIVI's, obviously, they're done well, but on some brands, I do that to strop it off to make it smooth, and you can get better action on your knives that have washers if you clean up that, sort of gritty side. After stropping, they are nice and shiny on both sides and quite a bit smoother. I'm going to put it back together without the backspacer so that you can see how that looks too. So here's the backspacer out of it, and some people might like that look better. It's perfectly solid. I like the way they put those pins in, so you've got that option. You could tie off a lanyard just off one part here if you want to as well, so it doesn't bunch up quite as wide, maybe on this side. Anyhow, that looks quite good. The action on this, I've probably opened and closed this thing maybe 50, 60 times, and since we've got phosphor bronze washers, it's only going to get smoother with time. Those surfaces are going to mate with each other very well, and they're going to wear into, well, the phosphor bronze is going to wear into each other. That's going to get even smoother with time, and very nice. What is this knife not good for? If you're thinking you're going to be able to do some tabletop chopping with this thing, no. Your knuckles are in the way. So just imagine this is the tabletop. Here, let me just pull out a strop here. If this is a tabletop and we're just looking at the side of it, and there's food on here, I can't get at it because my knuckles are in the way. So you got to be at the end of a table hanging off the side. And then it works just fine. You got that little rocking motion to do and stuff. It's just you can't go over top of a table. So that is the big limitation of this thing. But what do I like and dislike besides that? Most of it is just likes. The only other really dislike is when you want to buy one with the pattern welded Damascus, CIVIVI should say what the steels are that's in it. They're a really good company, always saying what steel is on their knives. And Lee at Love Them Knives has had some of his compatriots test a lot of knives, and a lot of CIVIVIs have been tested. They always are what they claim to be. It's got good action. It is a little bit of a fantasy knife, but this is actually a good, if you're doing car camping, you don't have to carry everything on your back. This would be a good knife to take along for food prep. It just works really well. You've got a tip here so that you can, pierce into things to start to open them if you need to. That works fine. It's not a stabbing knife, of course, but you've got a nice tip, nice long thin edge, full flat grind, forward choil that you can use, good grip, nice lock release, good lockup, good hand feel, right and left pocket clip. You can remove the back spacer if you don't like those. It's a good knife. I have zero issues with them using washers on these, and now when I look in it this way, you can even see the brass right there. The Mastodon, I like it. I like it a lot. Check out the Mini if this is just too big for you. Otherwise, and always, not otherwise, always, remember, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.